I had a question that's related to, I guess, your the post-divorce budget, which is spousal support or alimony for the lower earning or non-earning spouse. What have the trends been with that recently, and is that still something that is generally awarded?
Well, I'll defer a little bit more to Steve, but what I've been seeing is that spousal support has not been receiving as much attention or favoritism from the courts as it used to for several reasons. But Steve, you see this a lot more than I do.
We do, and it is really, alimony is something that is on the way to going away. It's not gone entirely, but it is an expectation of the courts that people who are able to work will go to work. And the generations of folks who are, the exceptions to that end up being people who at this point in time might be 30, 35 years out of the workforce and just plain stayed home, maintained the home front, raised the children, and it's just too late to re-enter the workforce. But we're very often seeing folks who may be out of the workforce 20 years, but they're in their mid-40s, and there's still a long way between where they are and traditional retirement age. And alimony will be on a limited duration and is considered rehabilitative. Here's something to allow you to meet your expenses while you acquire the new skills and work to get up to speed to get back into the workforce. It's a byproduct of the women's movement that we've seen for however many decades now, that the old alimony came out of a different era.
I've noticed something extremely interesting in the last few mediations we've done, and that is two wives in particular did not want spousal support.
Hopefully not two wives of the same husband, right?
No. Good point, Robert.
Was this a Utah No, go ahead.
And I found that very interesting. Emotionally, they took affront to that term. They may want more in a property settlement to perhaps make up the financial difference, but they did not want the term spousal support to be discussed, or they didn't want a financial settlement that included that. And I found that part of this trend that you're both talking about, so I found that very interesting.
Are there other trends that you are seeing with regard to support for children? Is that, more of now, both spouses are equally responsible for children's health and education expenses, that kind of thing?
We redid in Georgia the child support guidelines about 10 years ago and went to what's called an income shares model. Previously, you would look to the non-custodial spouse, which historically had been the father, the husband, and you simply, based on the number of children, took a percentage of gross income, and that was child support. With the new guidelines, and they're not so new anymore, it's you take a look at the combined gross income of both parties, and there is a table, much like a tax table, that based on the number of children and the combined gross income, there's a basic child support amount, and that is then allocated between the parties based upon what percentage of the income. So if one spouse is making $100,000, the other makes $50,000, and you look up for two children and you find the amount, 2/3 of that amount would be allocated to the higher earning spouse, and if that's the father and he's not the primary custodian, that's his basic child support amount. The effect has been from upper middle class and up, a reduction in child support in Georgia from the prior guidelines. This is no longer as attractive a state for a child support amount as it used to be, and that can be a challenge.
One thing we're finding with child support, as Steve is saying, it is a formula in the child support worksheet. Many times couples want to add supplemental child support. They may want to talk about college. The courts really don't get into college because the children at that point are older than 18 years old. But they may want to add in their agreements supplemental child support or financial support for children about college, maybe something extra for extracurricular activities, and we're seeing a trend toward that in the last several months as well.